Hello.
It isn't common, but once in a while, a film remake comes along that totally eclipses the original in just about every way. One such remake, in my opinion, was 2017's It, adapted from the book by Stephen King that was first immortalized in pop culture by a two-part TV miniseries released in 1990 and starring Tim Curry. Let's just say that aside from Curry's iconic performance, it hasn't aged well.
Well, you better let the poor guy out!
I remember going into the 2017 version expecting it not to be that great either, but ended up liking the movie quite a lot. It was one of my favorites of that year, and I've eagerly been awaiting this follow-up ever since.
Audiences applauded. They wanted more. So now they're gonna get more.
For those who aren't aware, this film and the previous one are both adapted from a single book, which alternates between two storylines, one occurring in the present day and the other 27 years in the past during the main characters' childhoods. The book is very, very long, so rather than cutting back and forth between the two narratives, these movies have opted to split the story in two and adapt it chronologically, with the first made up entirely of the childhood flashback portions, and this second one set mostly in the present day. This means that It Chapter 2 is less a sequel than it is just the other half of the story. Unfortunately, what it also means is that while splitting the narrative was a good idea, simply from a logistical standpoint of being able to faithfully adapt the book at all, it's way too long for a single film, the framing narrative of the main characters here as adults in the second movie loses a lot of its impact. See, at the beginning of the original novel, most of the characters in the present-day story have suffered a sort of collective amnesia, and don't really remember any of the horrific events from that one summer of their childhood, apart from the fact that it was just really unpleasant, and these details are gradually revealed both to them as well as to the reader over the course of the book as it cuts back and forth between the two plots.
Derry's not like any town I've ever been in before.
Something happens to you when you leave this town. The farther away, the hazier it all gets.
The result, of course, is that the present-day portion of this story hinges a lot on the mystery aspect of what happened in the past, and a lot of the plot in these segments pretty much consists of characters wandering around their old hometown to find clues through sentimental objects and locations that help them fill in the gaps and figure out why they're all being stalked and attacked by this supernatural shape-shifting monster. With this movie, however, you as the viewer are naturally expected to have already seen the first It film going into the second one, which does indeed retain the plot point of the characters all having amnesia. The film's solution to the relative lack of an actual mystery as the driving force of this narrative is twofold. First of all, it kind of cheats. There are still a bunch of flashbacks that occur throughout the movie, signifying points in the plot where these characters are meant to be remembering key aspects of what's going on, only these flashbacks are to events that occurred in between other scenes from the last movie, which again feels a bit cheap to me. The other thing the film does to try and make up for it is ramp up the scary parts way up in scale, to the point that it sometimes more closely resembles a mid-budget action movie from the late 2000s than it does a horror film, right down to an over-reliance on not quite there yet CGI effects and a bunch of added comedy. Most of it does still work though. I thought all the comedy was pretty funny, even though it is somewhat inappropriate in places. Pennywise the Clown was likewise still tons of fun to watch, played terrifically once again by Stellan Skarsgård. Alexander Skarsgård. No, Bill Skarsgård, yeah, that's it. There are too many Skarsgårds. I also really liked the new cast of now adult versions of the characters from the last movie. They all do a very good job at selling older versions of those kids. In particular, Bill Hader was excellent. Between this and Barry, that dude is quickly becoming one of my favorite big actors at the moment. Though while the performances were all very good, I've gotta say I never quite felt that sense of camaraderie between the new cast that I did with the kids in the first one. I was also never really frightened watching this, but to be fair, the scariest parts of the last movie by far were the more realistic human threats like the bullies or Bev's father, which were still present here, but obviously not as much. All of this is a very roundabout way of saying that after having now seen It Chapter 2, I still liked it, but I definitely didn't love it, at least not to the same extent I did the first It. I'd still recommend it to anyone who saw and liked the first one, but I think more than anything what I'm probably looking forward to most in terms of rewatching this one is gonna be the inevitable fan edit a year or two down the road that stitches both movies back together into a single 5-hour watching experience with the dual story structure of the book. Get on it, Topher. Come to think of it, this story would work a lot better done in the same vein as last year's The Haunting of Hill House, another horror story that cuts back and forth between past and present. That series was excellent, by the way. Go check it out if you haven't. It's a miniseries on Netflix. So yeah, TLDR, this is still alright, and the first is still great, but overall, I think what it really needs is a TV miniseries. Wait a sec. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, help me out by hitting that like button, subscribing for more in the future, and ringing the bell to stay up to date on all of my latest stuff, including Gargoyle Season 3 next week, I promise. Let me know down in the comments any of your thoughts on Stephen King's It, and check out some of the other great stuff I've got up here on my channel. As always, thanks so much to all of you guys for watching, and take care.